about launching a new podcast, what are some things you should put together first? Like, what should be like
Ooh.
some first steps?
First step is really hone in on.
Welcome back. You listen to the Omi Show, where we bring you authentic insight into the world of finance, pop culture, tech, and business news. Our guest today is Bridget Todd. I'm super hyped. She is an expert trainer, prominent expert trainer and speaker in the battle against online disinformation and extremism. She is also an advocate for social media platform accountability and safer digital spaces, particularly for marginalized individuals. Bridget's podcast, There Are No Girls on the Internet, is hosted on iHeartRadio and is won Best Technology Podcast, at iHeart Podcast Awards, and a Shorty Award for Best Podcast Miniseries for her work on misinformation and conspiracy theories. Her podcast explores how marginalized voices show up online in response to exclusion from digital discussions. Join us as we dive in to Bridget's remarkable journey and her mission to make the internet more inclusive and more truthful. Welcome to the show, Bridget. How are you?
I'm great. What a lovely introduction. Thank you so much for having me. I am completely excited to be here.
You have such a great podcast voice. Like, your voice is just radio ready. Like, do people tell you that? Like, do you hear that a lot?
I appreciate it. I think it comes from being a lifelong chatterbox and being the person who gets the report card that says like talks too much in class.
That was
But
me too.
Yes, but I'll take it. Thank you.
So you could be doing anything in the world, right? You could be sailing the seven seas. You could be climbing Mount Everest. You could be building orphanages across foreign lands. Okay, why become the creator and host of There Are No Girls on the Internet?
Oh, I love this question. I have just always loved podcasting and audio, even before it was a cool thing to do. I always like to tell people that I've been in the podcast space for over 10 years, even before big shows like Serial, even back before nobody knew what the heck a podcast was. I was just that person who loved audio and loved hearing people tell their own stories and their own voices. And so, yeah, it's even as audio wanes in popularity and listenership and all of that, I will always be an audio girly. It is my first love.
What do you think about that? Like, do you think what's next then, right? Like, video started to wane. It was like, oh, we're going audio. Then audio is waning, and we don't know where to go. Like, what we're gonna do next?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I mean, I think that in technology and in media, trends come and go, but I think some things are forever. And like audio and radio has been around for 100 years, right? People have been gathering around radios to hear somebody in a voice that they understand tell them what's going on in the world. And so even if it seems like a trend or it seems like something that people come to and then leave or whatever, people pump money into it and then take money out of it, it's not a trend. It's been around forever. And so I believe in the power of audio. I believe in the power of our stories. And so even as billionaires who make decisions about media shift their money, I don't think audio is ever going anywhere. And so people always ask me like, oh, should I start a podcast? Is it too late? Are there too many podcasts? The answer is, if you are thinking about starting one, if you even have an inkling of starting one, you should absolutely do it because, now is the time. Like, we need your voice. And it's, think about how many books there are in the world. You don't hear people being like, oh, there's too many books. I shouldn't write a book. There's too many books. That would be nonsense. I feel the same way about podcasts.
I love how you said the idea of somebody who sounds like you tell you about the world. And that's really what it is. And I feel like we're on a hunt for that. Like, just across the board, we're looking for people who look like us, sound like us, because I think that's the key. And it's funny because I always say, like, people say, oh, it's, having somebody that looks like you in the room. Yeah, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So what that also needs to be is somebody who sounds like you, who is mirroring what you and can sound like you and can bring you into a different sphere of understanding as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been trying to use podcasting as a medium to combat things like misinformation or conspiracy theories or inaccurate media content. And I think the reason why we're having such a problem with that is part of it is because so often the people who are telling us these stories they don't sound like us, they're not putting it in our language, and it's easy to not trust them or just to tune them out because they're not building that relationship with people. And so I firmly believe that if you have more people making authentic, thoughtful, loving, depictions of us in media, we can really shift our media landscape for the better.
I think that's right. Okay, so you founded Unbossed Creative. Tell us a little bit about it, and then tell us about the name. How did it evolve, and what does Unbossed actually mean to you?
Ooh, so Unbossed Creative is my company. It's the company that I create my podcast through, and my podcast we partner with iHeartRadio. And so really the name came from my idol, Shirley Chisholm, and
Mhm.
her concept of being unbought and unbossed. And the reason why unbossed spoke to me is because at the time I was somebody who worked like 9 to 5s. There is nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5. Working a 9 to 5 worked for me for many years, but as I became clearer in my purpose and sort of what I wanted to be doing, working for someone else started to make less and less sense for my life. And I remember I was listening to a friend of mine who has gone on to be like a prolific artist and filmmaker and creator, Amber Abundance. And something that she said that really sticks with me and stuck with me to this day is, why would I kill myself to make somebody else's dream come true? And that was like a thing that reverberated in my mind of like, I am staying up late, waking up early, working so hard, not for my own vision or goal or dream, in service of somebody else's. And that's something that stuck with me. I don't want to make it seem like I'm saying that like you can't do any of that stuff with a 9 to 5. Like, I'm not somebody who thinks that like if
Yeah.
you're not an entrepreneur, you're not anything. But for me,
Mm.
it just was clear that I was really out of alignment. And so I wanted to be unbossed. And what that meant for me was that not just I am my own boss. No, I feel like I don't answer to anybody. I answer to my vision, my calling. When I work on podcasts, I don't have a boss. Like, I partner with organizations, but if the vibes are off, I always keep that in mind that like I set myself up so that I could leave at any time and be like, nope, this isn't working for me. I'm done. And I think after a long time of being quite bossed and having lots of
Mhm.
bosses and feeling the friction that comes with that, I really wanted to create a new lane for myself where I felt unbossed. So it's really a nod to that feeling of really wanting to be the steward of your own ship.
I love that. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the journey because lots of our listeners are business owners or aspiring business owners or even corporate employees that may think about it one day or side hustling. And so, when is the time that you decide to be unbossed? Because people a lot of times like, yeah, I want that freedom. I want that feeling. I want to feel like I can leave when I want to leave. I want to feel like I can go when I want to go. I want to feel, and even in being a small business owner, sometimes you don't feel that in partnerships. So I'm curious. I'm curious. I guess it's a kind of twofold question. One, my first question is, when do you know it's time to like take that unbossed journey? And then the other piece is, even when working with these really large entities, how do you negotiate terms that let you decide and maintain control?
Okay, you've asked the two best questions that I could ever imagine. So the first one is like, when was it time? I can only speak to my journey, and I have an answer that I give when I'm asked this, like on panels and in talks. But the real answer is maybe like not what people want to hear, but it's just the truth, which is that for me in my life, the time that I knew that it was time to start my own thing and do my own thing really aligned with changes in my personal life. Um,
Mm.
I I'm someone who really thinks it's important to talk about like your journey holistically. So it's not just your professional journey or your entrepreneurship journey, it's also your personal journey and your romantic life journey and all of that. And so I had been in a string of romantic relationships that were not working and were not working in a very specific way where they drain you, where you find yourself really doing a lot of the heavy lifting of like keeping things going. And when I got into the relationship that I'm in now, it was the first time that I experienced the stability of being with somebody who felt like a true partner. And
Mm.
I never in a million years would have felt the stability to go out on my own, to like leave a good job where I was making six figures and had great benefits, if not for being in that partnership. And so it really opened up a lot of space for me to do some long-term planning and scheming and hustling and dreaming, and to have the support of a partner who really saw that and wanted that for me and was like, we can make this happen. And so if I had not been able to like get on my partner's health insurance, I probably would have never left my job, right? If I didn't really truly feel like I can spend a year trying to build something for myself, for to, you know, to make a legacy for myself, if I didn't have a partner who really felt like a stakeholder in that, I don't think I would have been able to do it. And so that was really
Mm.
the big change for me. I don't know if that's like an answer people want to hear,
No,
but
it's a great answer. It's the real answer. That's the only answer I want to hear. I don't know about people, but right now it's just me and you. And because I say that because mine was the same way. Actually, the opposite happened to me, where I had a partner who was not supportive of my entrepreneurial journey. And I called a psychic hotline, and they told me that when you find the thing you want to do, the money will come, and you're not going to be with that guy.
Mhm.
And
Oof.
so at that point, while I may have been feeling like this is not a right relationship for me, I don't know that I would have made that move at that time. I would have still been like, okay, well, let me go back and get a job, because they don't want me to, be an entrepreneur right now, because they don't feel like it's a great thing to do. I'm so glad that I did not listen to that. And I'm so glad. And I think like these life things are important, because the idea of being a woman or a functioning adult or a great citizen means that you are married, or you are,
Mhm.
you have children, or you are, living a certain way, driving a car, you got a certain bag. Like, all these things are real parts of our life. And I think that we don't talk enough about how the personal comes into play with entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. I mean, I first of all, thank you for sharing that, because I really identify with what that psychic told you. And I think something that you just said that I really want to pull out is like the money will come. That's something that I've really come to see and trust and really lean on. And it can be hard. I have times where I'm like, we need a new contract in, or things are going to be bad. But when you are in alignment with what you want to be doing and what you're meant to be doing, the
Mm.
universe rewards that, and that opens up doors for you. And like, it can be hard and scary to take that leap, but what's for you finds you. You don't have to chase, you don't have to stress. What is for you, if you are really living in your purpose and in alignment, I truly believe it will find you. And knock on wood, that has been my experience so far. And yeah, when I think like, damn, I really should just go get a job, and like I probably will hate it, and but at least I'll have consistent checks coming in. There's an email in my inbox, like something comes through. And so I know it's hard. I've been there for those hard nights, but the money will come. You don't need to chase it. What is for you finds you. The universe rewards when you are living in your alignment, I believe.
I love that. Probably a word I need to hear right now. But what is for you finds you, because but here's the thing: what is for you finds you, and are you living your purpose for real?
Hmm.
And it takes a minute sometimes, and it takes some stripping away, and it takes some like what feels like detrimental spaces and moments for you to come to that. And because if we look at life, like zoom out and look at life, things are constantly happening on a circle, like in a pattern. And I feel like you break out of that circle and move to the next place when you realize that pattern and go, okay, all right, time out, wait a minute. I want to move into something else. One of the things that I got listed on my podcast, things to talk about, is it's time for you to stop rearranging the furniture on this level and literally exit this level and walk up to the next level.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, like, oh my God, where do I even start? I have been the person obsessively rearranging furniture on a level that is like on fire, where it's like, you need to leave. Like, you're not going to make it better. It's time. Like, don't you see that this is not for you? And it can be really painful and hard and difficult to do that. Like, there's just so much in life that makes it hard for us to see what we're meant to be doing. But then when you're doing what you're meant to be doing, it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel
That's
like
right.
conflict and it might be challenging, but those challenges sort of kind of feel like things that you can handle, things that you're excited to dig into. Things that are for us are not meant to be so hard. Struggle, that level of struggle is not meant to be part of our everyday. And if you are feeling that level of struggle, it might be an indication that you're not doing what you're meant to be doing.
Oh my God. Okay. You know what? You just gave me so many thoughts. Because, okay, so for an entrepreneur, hiring is challenging. Period, hands down, full stop. Anybody, it's challenging. One of the things I just realized, so I was talking to one of our employees the other day just about how, when I worked at Google, like this idea that when you talk to somebody, you kind of know, oh, they work at Google. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you talk to somebody that works at Nike, you can look at them and be like, like literally, I'm on the plane if you get on the plane to Oregon or on the plane to LA, okay,
You
where there's a
know.
big Nike hub at, you like, yeah, they work for Nike. If you get on a plane to a like big, even like sporting event, you can look at somebody and be like, they work at Nike. And I'm like, how do these big companies do that? Like, how do they create this sort of environment where they have these common kinds of people that can have this common conversation, right? And so I was thinking, oh my God, like this is part of the recruiting, right? So part of the recruiting is, and these are things I just heard. Okay, we do work with Nike, but I cannot verify what I'm about to say. But what I have heard is that they look for people who are athletes or have been athletes. You could be an athlete in any sense, but do you have an athletic kind of mindset, thought process, right? So that's one key thing with them. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know what Google's is. I think it's maybe something around like how you are with tech, maybe. But I'm like, okay, well, what would it be the thing that I'm looking for that's a personality trait that is not a typical like, oh, personality trait, you're kind, you're tenacious, you're resilient, like not that kind of stuff. But more like what profession. So I have a friend who she said, I only recruit people who have been in theater before
Mm.
and who have worked on the Hill. And I was like, why that? And she's like, because people who've been in theater are the only people that can handle my super open and what feels like dramatic personality. And I'm like,
That's
oh my
brilliant.
gosh, that is so good.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, wow, this is I mean, this could be like a whole mindset shift of like, what is the like what is the type of person, oops, excuse me. What is the type of person that is in your circle that you want in your circle? Is it actors, comedians, detectives, athletes? Like who do you align with, and who do you want to fill your circle with that you can be in that alignment with? That is so interesting. I'm gonna start using that.
And I think like what is for you will find you is interesting around, are people working in their purpose? So those people, especially I would say with Nike, maybe not as much with the Google employees I've seen, but those people are working, they grew up saying, I want to work at Nike.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They grew up knowing I want to be here, and some brand people are like that. When you meet people who work in brand, they're like, I grew up knowing I wanted to be a brand manager. I wanted to make things come to life. I wanted to have vision. I wanted to be a strategist. I wanted to and I'm like, how did you grow up knowing? Like, at what point in your life did that? People who work on the Hill, they grew up thinking, I want to be chief of staff for the senator of blah blah blah. It's crazy to me. I mean, crazy, but not too crazy.
Well, that's the thing about like really knowing who you are and knowing where you want to be, the spaces that you want to be in. If you did not grow up knowing I am the athlete type, even if you aren't like a sporty person, but like as a mindset, when you get the call from Nike, you might not know like this is the call that I've been waiting for, right? And so it just shows the importance of really knowing yourself, tuning out a lot of the noise that we all hear that's like, oh, you're meant to have this kind of job, be this kind of person, to be an adult, you need to be like this. Like I spent so much of my life feeling like because I didn't present a certain kind of way that meant something about me. And so being like, oh, well, I guess I need to be more polished or more this or more that. When I was actually aligned with like and understood really who I am and how I feel good and like how I like to present, how I like to show up, now those are the only spaces I'm in. I never worry that I'm going to say the wrong thing in a meeting or like offend somebody or whatever, because I'm really clear about who I am, how I feel best, who I want to be around myself with. And I used to spend so much of my time changing myself to fit into spaces. And now that like just doesn't happen because I'm like, yeah, this is who I am. I've built a professional life that is in alignment with that. And like everything else just fell into place.
Okay, we're gonna talk about that more. You got to stay right here because I want to get into how you get there. I want to get into when the stakes get bigger and feeling like you can't get there. So hold that thought. All right, y'all, keep it locked right here. We'll be right back after this break. And we are back. You're listening to the Omi Show. I'm your host, Omi Bell. So glad to be here with y'all on a Sunday. Y'all know what time it is. We rocking and rolling. I am here with my new friend, special friend, no friends for life, good girlfriend. Okay, Bridget Todd. She is the creator and the host of There Are No Girls on the Internet on iHeartRadio. I am so excited to be having this conversation. Okay, when we left out from the break, we were talking about being yourself and sort of aligning your professional experiences with that. Okay, here's where I am. This is where everybody y'all just go had to sit in on my confessional moment.
I love this. I love these kinds of podcasts and conversations.
So when I didn't have anything to lose, when I was in the trenches, I was, on Section 8, I was on food stamps. I'm like trying to figure it out. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm like, and granted, I'm a computer scientist and I was working good jobs, like being a school teacher. America's just not built for a single parent with 2 kids. So there's that. But finally, I get laid off, not finally, but because I didn't expect it, but I got laid off twice and decided to start on this business journey. And I didn't have anything to lose. So I'm just creating. I'm just like, what can I figure out? I built a TP in my living room and rented it out on Airbnb. I created my own like greeting card. Like I was doing whatever I could do to make money. And then it just felt like a rhythm of, I got to make money. I don't want to be on public assistance for the rest of my life. And I need to figure out how I want to move. Right. And that was my only thought. And so nothing else, when I say like tunnel vision, because I was like, something gonna have to work. I don't know what it is, but there's no reason for me to not try every single thing I could possibly think of to get out of the situation that I'm in. Plus, I am in a bit breakup. My fiance, who is my youngest daughter's dad, I'm thinking like that was my ticket to regular life, quote unquote. That was my get married opportunity. So now that's done. And I got 3 children and I'm still a single parent and I'm thinking, what the hell? Right. I'm building my own furniture. I'm doing pallet diving and I am just in fight or flight, I think, full stop. Right. Move on to launching a t-shirt line. T-shirt line takes off. Print shop takes off. I grow over 6 figures. Now I'm like, boom, I move off Section 8, off of all public assistance, put my oldest kid through school. Like now I'm like through college. And now I'm like, okay, I build Black Girl Ventures, huge amount of success. Black Girl Ventures takes off. We are working with women massively. I'm so proud of the work that we have done. And I think, and with my team and like all the iterations of the team that I've had and who have seen all the iterations of the leader I've become. And now I'm like, I feel like I want to do something else. But now there's a different weight, I feel, because now I've built so much stuff, right? And this may be what some corporate employees feel too, if you're out there listening, where like when you have nothing, it was easy for me to be like, whatever, because what I got to lose. Now I feel like I have a lot to lose, and I feel like other people have a lot to lose.
Yeah.
At the same time, I just want to do whatever I want to do. Like I still feel like I'm yearning for my next unbossed moment because now I got some bosses.
Yeah.
I got funders as bosses. I got community as bosses. I got people that's like, all right, where you at doing the thing I need you to do, bosses? But not in a strong way. I'm still very much in control of my life and thankful for what I have. But now I'm like, actually, I don't want to talk about business all day on social media.
Yeah. Wow. Well, first, what an interesting, like, I would just say first, I think it's important to just really acknowledge how like this journey that you've been on and that you're in, like you're on the other level. And just, I don't know, I think that especially as Black women, we can be so attuned to grinding and hustling that we don't take a minute and be like, wow, I built this. I built an empire. I put my kid through college. I really did this. Like that, I think before you can really figure out how and what's next, really acknowledging and honoring where you are now and
Mm.
that you're in this, like take in the view a little bit. That's something that I really wish I had done more of. You know, think about a time when you didn't have all you have now and that you would have killed for it. And now you have it. So like,
Mm.
isn't that amazing? Um, I really identify with how you feel about wanting, like, I guess part of me, I guess, I mean, I don't know. I have the sense that white founders and white entrepreneurs, they get to a certain level and they can sort of coast. They can start doing like little side challenges of like, well, now I want to do a cookware line just because I've always liked to cook. And it doesn't have anything to do with entrepreneurship, but I just like this. Like, I worry sometimes that we don't get that same space to play a little bit, to like to like be like, where I'm at a certain level and now I'm going to just like explore and play and be creative and have fun. I don't know that we get that same, maybe we don't give ourselves that same space, but I don't know that we get that same space.
I think that's a great. Oh, I love that you said that, and I think that. Okay, so what I'm about to say is a little bit controversial, but it does fall in line with extremism and disinformation. Okay, so Larry Elder, I don't know if you've been watching any of those videos,
Yes.
right? But what I found interesting about those videos is, about his interviews, is that he's asking everybody the question, okay, well, systemic racism, well, where does it exist? And actually, nobody can really give a clear, and don't get me wrong, we like know it exists.
Right.
Nobody's been able to give a clear example. He's like, okay, give me an example. Nobody that I've seen so far in the interviews that I've seen him in, there's only been, I watched The Breakfast Club and I watched the Van Lathan show, has been able to give like a really clear, okay, right here, right? And because one, saying give me an example is not a good way to put that, just because it's about long-term impact. Maybe today is not as overt, it's not as explicit. It's not as like, oh, here it is right here, see the cross on the lawn. But it's such an intellectual battle.
Mm-hmm.
What we've been, it's the long-term effects of Jim Crow, it's the long-term effects of what we've been dealing with. So speeding that up to this moment to say, when you say maybe we're not giving ourselves that, I was watching, PayPal did this, they hosted this screening of this movie they did with this guy named Arlo, can't remember Arlo's last name, but it was called A Barbershop of Little Rock. And it's about this guy who started a barbershop and then started he also started a like a CDFI, community development financial institution. And at the end of the movie, an older gentleman says to him, because we can't have nothing, they're gonna attack it. So if you have, and then a woman in the audience, when we went to Q&A, they had to talk back. She also said, yeah, what he said was true. What he said to you was true. That we can't have, if you build up something, you're gonna get attacked. I don't know about you, but I'm so tired of being the most adversely affected person on the planet. Like, that's number one.
Yes.
I'm so tired. I'm so tired of, oh, a new disease popped up. Black people the most adversely affected. Oh God. Okay, this pops up. Everything I'm so tired. Okay, that's one. Number two, I do think there is a part of that not that it's not true, but I think it's a part that we have held on to as our identity that is not productive. And what I'm facing inside of what you just said is shattering that ceiling for me as an individual, but not for the masses per se, other than me being just saying I'm an example. And I teeter on that line of even my own familial DNA, ancestral trauma of like, is that real though? Can I not? Can I actually not go create a cake baking company right now? Like, is that actually true for me? Is it true that whatever we build, we're gonna get attacked? Granted, and like we're now like collateral damage in between attacks of other people. Like this stuff
Mm-hmm.
Edward Bloom and the alliance, that is about corporations, and we're in the middle of it.
Right.
It's like, leave us alone. You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. They could be racist as all get out. I'm not saying they're not. Get out. No pun intended. But anyway, that was a lot. So I'll pause for your thoughts. But like, they are firing at corporations, and we are easy targets to do it through.
Yes. I mean, like, I just want to honor that, like, how messed up it is that we do become these collateral targets, that, like, particularly in that, like, when you look at Fearless Fund, like, these women have work to do. They don't, the fact that their time, their money, their energy is being taken away by these fights that really have nothing to do with us, nothing to do with them, is really just so messed up. But I really identify with what you said. I remember years ago, I was working on a social media team and I was coming up with a caption, like a tweet or something, about a video that Ariana Huffington had made, like an interview that she had done from like Davos or some like rich person gathering. And somebody asked her in the interview, "What's the best piece of advice you ever got in your life?" And she said, "Live life as if it's already been rigged in your favor." And something about that comment, at first I was like, that is such a privileged thing to say, like easy for her to say, like, oh, like at the time I was like making no money, living a pretty rough life. And eventually I had to be like, why is it that that comment stuck with me? It like triggered me so deeply. And I realized it was because I had been living life in the opposite. I had been living life in a way that was like, oh, it's all gonna not work out. Even if it does work out, they're gonna take it. Like, and I just realized how mired I was in that mindset, to the point where I couldn't even see it anymore. That like it just was my reality. When I wake up every day, my lot is to struggle and to have things not work out. And I challenged myself, like, well, what if I did live like things were rigged in my favor? Like, would that be so bad? And I came to see that, just kind of like as you said, that we can do so much more. We are capable of so much more. We can have so much more if we just try. Like I'm always speaking for myself because I agree. I don't mean it in like a systemic way or an institutional way, because certainly we're up against real challenges. But I just let myself automatically hold me back from doing so much of what I wanted to do because of that mindset. That mindset is so pervasive and so easy to get stuck in, I guess.
And I think unfortunately, it's causing us to have to think less collective, right? So when we look at the idea of white culture, Eurocentric culture, it is thinking individualistically. And don't get me wrong, we care. Not to say that white people don't care about family. I don't mean that. I just mean that like people of color are inherently more communal. So our struggles end up being somewhat communal, and then we look at other races and say, or ethnic groups, and say they're also solving their problems communally, and we are communally complaining or continuing sort of threats from slavery, right? And I would say that, like, yeah, we haven't had privileges to do certain pieces, but individually we do. And that's the hard part, I think, for us personality wise, is that like we're like, oh no, they can't do it, I can't do it. You know what I mean? Like we immediately get communal about every trouble that comes.
We're very communal about our traumas.
We're
like, you can have some.
very communal about our traumas. But we are actually, and I don't even know that I'm saying this is the answer. I'm just saying that like individually, yeah, you could go. Somebody might be looking at you like, yeah, she can go get a podcast on iHeart, but how can we all get a, you know what I mean? It's like, wait a minute, wait, time out. Maybe that's not the way it works all the time. Whereas like, no, maybe I can go get this deal on Sirius, but I can't go like share my deal with you. I could tell you how I got here, and I can tell you how to move. I can tell you what moves to make. I can tell you what rooms to go in, but you're still entering into all those rooms and making all those moves as an individual. My relatability, your ability to communicate, your ability to showcase what you have. Like we can learn all that from each other. But still, you got to take your individual walk. This goes back to what's for you will find you, not what's for you will find us, or what was for us will find you, or you know what I mean?
That's brilliantly put. Because yeah, when you have a show, I'm on your show, you're gonna come on my, like, we can support each other and share what we have, but ultimately you can only take me so far. Like, right? Like, we have to then do the individual thing and do the individual work of figuring out like what it is we want, how we want to show up. Like, because what's the Omi version of success and the Bridget version of success might be two
Totally
different things.
different.
If I got the version of success that felt right for you, that might not be in alignment. And so it is this interesting thing of walking communally and really also having an individual mindset. That's really, you gotta, that's really something. You need to do something with that. And it's so embarrassing because you have to be like, oh, I'm so sorry, can you give me a moment? And then you have to restart.
So, listen, this has been wonderful. I didn't even get to ask you all the podcast stuff I want to ask you. We got a few minutes left, so I think I'm gonna try to jump into the just a couple podcast questions.
Please.
But I have just loved the vibe and just love having this conversation. Just really love deep diving into person being like human. That's my thing. Like just relatable, just being a human. And how do we human to human think through these things that we know we're being impacted by, we know we're being affected by, and just really kind of pull them apart? Because my thought is things feel so stuck together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything, it's like when you're stressing, it's because everything you're going through feels like it's in one ball and it's hitting you upside the head. You know what I mean? And so being able to stop, take it apart, maybe sometimes pluck it chip by chip, one by one. You know, you got a whole wall you trying to change the color of, and you might have to just go in and bulldoze that thing and with a roller. You might just be taking one chip at a time. Whatever is your pace and your stance and how you decide to do it is perfect for you. You know? Okay, podcast stuff. All right, so when you're thinking about launching a new podcast, what are some things you should put together first? Like what should be like some first steps?
First step is really hone in on what it is that you specifically and individually can add to a conversation. Oftentimes people are like, I have a great idea for a podcast. It's going to be diving into all the pop culture news of today. And it's like, well, what is it that you can bring to that conversation that other people can't, right? So really finding that niche. Podcasting is an interesting space because people really love hearing somebody who is passionate about a specific thing, like deep dive nerd out on it. You cannot go too deep on a podcast. That's like why people are listening. And so if you, whatever it is that your specific interest or passion or talent is, make sure that whatever you're coming up with really fits with that, because people aren't listening to a podcast to hear a surface take that they could hear anywhere else. So that's one. Two, I would say get really, really hyper specific on who your audience is, right? Like, how old are they? Where do they live? What kind of life do they live? Right? Like, I hear people say all the time, like, oh, my podcast is for everybody. And it's like, well, is it? Like, who is it really for? So getting super hyper clear about who it is that you're making this for and why. And then lastly, making sure that you have a understanding of how you are planning to do this with longevity and with sustainability. Like, I regret I really just kind of like rushed. I was like, I want to have a podcast. I'm just going to do it. And I really kind of set myself up for the work not being as sustainable as it could. Oftentimes people will start, like I think there's a stat that's like a wild percentage of podcasts don't make it past 3 or 4 episodes because they haven't built in like how you're going to do this with longevity. So really think long term, not short term when you're building out how to do it.
Okay, so basically business steps. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, stop looking at it like it's different from running a business.
It's a business. Yeah. Like it is my job.
This has been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me, Bridget. Where can people follow you? What's next?
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been a dream come true, literally. You can find me on Instagram at Bridget Marie in DC or on Twitter at Bridget Marie, and you can find out all the interesting stuff I'm up to there.
Also, check out my book wherever you buy your books. Originate, Motivate, Innovate, 7 Steps for Building a $1 Billion Network. It's out now. Make sure you get your copy. I'll be right back here.